Hi everyone, hope you all are good. We are here for grade 8 math. You can find all the lessons on aplusstudents.com. You have to log in there using your email address and password is provided by the administrator. Then you have to select math from the subject tab, scroll down to grade 8 math and then click on view all lessons. There you can find a list of the chapters. We're going to start with the chapter math. The lessons we're going to cover today are transformations and congruence. The lessons we're going to cover today are reflection, find the coordinates, rotation, find graph the image, rotation, find the coordinate, congruence statements and corresponding lines, corresponding parts. So please make sure you have your notebook and pencil so that you can note down the important examples and definitions as well. So please make sure you have your notebook and pencil so that you can note down the important examples and definitions as well. Let's just start with the chapter. Here I am on the chapter transformations and congruence. Let's just start with the lesson that is reflection, find the coordinates. Hold on. We're going to start with reflection. Reflections, graph the image. Let's just start with the lesson. Okay, so graph the image of E negative 5, 9 after reflection over the x-axis. So here is the x-axis. First, let's just see how that is the x-axis, right? So you have to find a distance x from x. It is negative 5 and 9. So it is same distance from here on this side, right? On the opposite side. Negative 5 and negative 9. Here it is. Here is the reflection. So the reflected image is grade 2 session for language. So this is the reflected image, right? Sorry, reflection over the y-axis. Sorry. I thought x it is. Y it is. This is the y-axis. The highlighted one is the y-axis. You need to find the reflection of E over the y-axis. So that would be the same distance. Every distance is same on the y-axis. So that is, here is the reflection of E, that is known as E dash, right? That is the reflection over the y-axis. So let's just read the description. Okay, so start the point with the point P E negative 5, 9 and the y-axis, right? Find the mirror image of the point on the other side of the line. Since E is 5 units to the left of y-axis, E dash is 5 unit to the right of x-axis. So you can see this distance is 5 unit left of the y-axis. So the reflected image would be 5 unit on the right side, right? 5 unit on the right side of the y-axis. So the reflected image is at 5, 9. Got it? Okay, so let's just start with the test question. Let's see how do we graph the images, right? Let's just start with the test questions. Okay, the first one is graph the image z 10 negative 2 after the reflection over the x-axis. Grade 2 session language you're talking about. The session is live, right? You can simply refresh the page. Okay, so let's just see the point z. X is 10 and y is negative 2. Here it is, right? Here is the point. You have to find a reflection over the x-axis. So that is 10 points right on the x-axis. That is 2 points down on the x-axis, right? When that would be reflected, that would be simply 2 points up on the y-axis. So here is the reflected image, that is negative c, and have the measurement and have the coordinates, that is 10 and 2. So z dash is the reflected image of the z and the coordinates are 10 and 2. This is the correct option. You can see here is the point, right? Option number 2 is the correct option. Okay, graph the image k, negative 1 and negative 1 after reflection over the x-axis. So here is the point. You need to find the reflection of this point over the x-axis. So the highlighted axis is the x-axis, right? So that the point is exactly the same distance on the x-axis, right? That is 1 unit down from x-axis. So when it would be reflected, that is 1 unit up the x-axis, right? So here is the k dash. K dash is exactly the mirror image of k. The k has the coordinates negative 1 and negative 1. So k has the coordinates negative 1 and 1. The correct option is negative 1 and 1. So the correct option is, let's just see which is the correct option, right? This isn't the correct option, right? This is the correct option. Option number 2 is the correct option. Got it? The correct option is option number. Here is the point E. Graph the image E negative 5 9 after a reflection over the y-axis. So you need to draw the point E over the reflection of the y-axis. So the graph is left 5 unit left on E, right? The point E is 5 unit left on. So point E is on the 5 unit left of y-axis, right? So the deflected image would be 5 unit right to the x-axis, right? Sorry, y-axis. That would be 5 unit right on the y-axis, right? So the reflected image would be option number 1 is the correct option. Got it? Graph the image of f10 negative 10 negative 7 after a reflection of over the x-axis. So which is the correct option? that is the reflection over the x-axis, right? So the point 10 negative 7 must be the same distance for the effect for the coordinate f, right? So when you reflect the image along the x-axis, it would be exactly the same distance over the y-axis, over the x-axis, right? The reflected image have exactly the same points, but they have f is 10 and 7. The correct option is 10 and 7. Okay, so let's just see which option is the correct one. That is option number 1 is the correct option. Okay, you can complete the lesson by yourself later today. Let me just move on to next lesson, and the next lesson is the next lesson is reflections, find the coordinates. Let's just start with the next lesson. Okay, so now we just learned how to reflect the point along the x-axis or over the x-axis or y-axis, right? Now we are going to see if the point is reflected, the resulting what are the coordinates of the resulting point, right? The point are negative 6 is reflected over the y-axis. What are the coordinate of the resulting point? Okay, so the point is negative 6 and negative 6. Here it is, right? You have to see the resulting coordinates. So if r is reflected, that would be here, right? That is exactly the same distance from same distance on x-axis and same distance on y-axis, right? So that would be the reflected image, r dash it is, and the coordinates of r dash is x is 6 and y is negative 6, because that would be reflected over the x-axis. So that is 6 and negative 6. So 6 and negative 6 is the correct option. Let's just start with the test questions. The point and negative 3 is reflected over the x-axis. What are the coordinates of the resulting point and dash? So which is the correct option? So here is the given point and negative 3 and negative 3. You have to point the reflected image along the x-axis. So which is the correct option? So that is reflected over the along the x-axis, right? So that would be the same distance on the other side. So you have 1, 2, 3, and 1, 2, and 3. That would be negative 3 and negative 3, right? So the reflected image would be here. That is n dash. The coordinates are negative 3 and 3. Option number 1 is the correct option. That is negative 3 and 3. Option number 1 is the correct option is option number 1. That is n dash negative 3 and negative 3 is the negative 3 and 3 is the correct option, right? That is option number 1 is the correct option. The point m negative 1 negative 6 is reflected over the y-axis. What are the coordinates of the resulting point h dash? So which is the correct option? Let's just see the point h. Here is the point h, negative 1 and negative 6, right? That would be reflected along the x-axis. So the reflected image is here. That is the coordinates of this point is x is 1 and y is same negative 6, right? The correct option is 1 and negative 6. Option number 1 is the correct option. Yes, that is option number 1. That is 1 and negative 6 is the correct option. Option number 1 is the correct option. Okay, the next one is the point C, negative 1, negative 2 is reflected over the x-axis. What are the coordinates of the resulting point? So which is the correct option? The reflected image would be, you have to reflect over the x-axis, right? So the reflected image would be, the correct option is 1 and negative 2, right? Option number 2 is the 1 and 2. Option number 1 is the correct option, right? The correct option is option number 2 is the correct option. Negative 1 and 2 is the correct option. The point z negative 2 5 is reflected over the y-axis. What are the coordinates of the resulting point? So which is the correct option? So which is the correct option? The point z negative 2 5 is reflected over the y-axis. What are the coordinates of the resulting point? So it must be reflected on the y-axis. So the point is exactly the same distance from x and y. So the point is, here is the reflected image, right? Here is the reflected point z dash. So z dash has the coordinates x is 1 and y is, that is 2 and negative 5. So the correct option is 2 and negative 5. Option number 1 is the correct option, right? So that means the reflected image would be 2 and negative 5. Option number 1 is the correct option. 2 and negative 5. Okay. Okay, you can complete the lesson by yourself later today. Let me just move on to next lesson. Okay, you can complete the lesson by yourself later today. Let me just move on to next lesson. So the number that isn't the next lesson we're going to start with is rotation graph the image. So let's just see how do the rotation works. Let's just start with the lesson. Okay, graph the image A negative 1 8 after a rotation of 180-degree clockwise around the origin. So that is around the origin, and the other thing is 180-degree rotation. It is right. 180 means 1 by 2. So that is a full turn ratio. So that means you point the point is okay. So here is the point A negative 1 8, right? Rotate the point 180-degree around the origin. The point will move to quadrant 2 to quadrant 4. So from here to here it is moved. You have to move like this, right? Counterclockwise direction you have to move. To find the next location, graph 0 0 and are forming opposite corners of a box. Rotate the box, keep it ping the 0 0. corner fixed. So you have to, how do we rotate? You have to keep this fixed, right? You have to move from here to here. So here is the reflected image in. And the next thing is you have to find the coordinates. Let's just start test questions. They are already solved. You can have a look on them later today. So let me just start with the test questions. Graph the image and 25 after a rotation of 90-degree counterclockwise from the origin. So which is the correct option? N is 25, right? So yes, that is the reflected image, and that is the coordinates are, that is option number 2 is the correct option. Just look at the coordinates. That is 2. The coordinates are 2 and -5. So option number 2 is the correct option. Graph the image of L -70 after a rotation of 180-degree clockwise around the origin. So you have to move clockwise, right? So let's just see which is the reflected image of L. Here is L, -7 and 0, right? The reflected image would be option number 2 is the correct option. That is the reflected image. So the correct option is option number 2. So graph the image of P76 after a rotation 180-degree counterclockwise direction around the origin. So you have the point 76, right? So you have to rotate 180 degrees, half turn it is. So which is the correct option? That is 7 and 6. Option number 2 is the correct option. That is the correct option, right? -7 and -6. Option number 2 is the correct option. Graph the image of A -1 8 after a rotation 180-degree clockwise around the origin. So which is the correct option? -1 and 8. So which is the correct option? You can see the options. So which number 2 is the correct option. Got it? Just select the correct option and then click on the OK button. Okay, you can complete the lesson by yourself later today. Let me just move on to next lesson. Okay, so the next lesson is Rotation, find the coordinates. Let's just start with the next lesson, that is rotation, find the coordinates. So let's just let's just see how do we find the coordinates, right? We just learned how to rotate the image. So the point D, -6, -5 is rotated 270 degree clockwise around the origin. What is the coordinates of the resulting point D? So which is the correct option? 3/4 turn it is, right? 270 degree means 3 by 4th term it is, right? So either you go 3 by 4 or you go 1 by 4 rotation. They both are exactly same, right? So here is the rotate the point 270 degree clockwise around the origin. The point will move from quadrant 3 to quadrant 4 to find the exact location. Image 0, 0 and D forming opposite corners of a box. Rotate the box keeping the 0, 0 corner fixed. Okay, let's just start with the test questions. Okay, the next example is the point 2, -4 is rotated 180 degrees clockwise around the origin. What are the coordinates of the resulting point B dash? So here is B, right? The coordinates of the B are 2 and -4, right? So you have to rotate 180 degrees. So that means that is the half rotation, right? You must be here in the second quadrant. That is x equals -2 and y equals 1, 2, 3, 4. Option number 1 is the correct option. That is, the coordinates are -2 and 4. The correct option is option number 1 is the correct option. That is, -2 and 4 is the correct option. Okay, the point P, -6, -4 is rotated 270 degree counterclockwise around the origin. What are the coordinates of the resulting point P? So which is the correct option? So which is the correct option? -6 and -4, that is 270 degree uh, rotation, right? So that would be in the second quadrant, that is -4 and 6. Option number 2 is the correct option. Okay, the point D, -6, -5 is rotated 270 degree clockwise around the origin. What are the coordinates of the resulting point D? So which is the correct option? That is -6 and -5, right? So that must be in the first quadrant, that is 5 and 6. Okay, you can complete the lesson by yourself later today. So we were working on grade 8 math. The chapter we were working on is transformations and congruence. And the lessons we have covered today are reflections, graph the image, reflections, find the coordinate, reflections, graph the image, and rotations, find the coordinate. So please make sure before the next session you can complete all the practice questions for the lessons we just did. That is your homework until next session, right? So if you need more help with any of the lesson, you can contact any tutor on the live chat button. They are available to help you, or either you can join me in the interactive session that would be daily from 4 to 5, right? Okay, that's all.